Hello, so in today's lesson we're going to be looking at what is embryo screening, and that's on page 33 of your booklets. Please make sure that your mobile phone is turned off and put away so you're not distracting yourself with it. You've not got the TV on or playing games or anything, and you've got your booklet with you and a pen ready to do the activities while we're going through it. At times during the session, you will see this yellow banner coming up. For this, I want you to pause the video at this time, and that will give you the time to complete the tasks. So first off, we're going to have a look at the do now task. You've got 2 questions and a challenge to answer. And now is a time for you to pause the video to complete the task. Unpause it when you're ready to go through the answers. So you should have now completed the answers. So we're going to go through them. First one, polydactyly is an inherited condition where a person has extra fingers or toes, and it's caused by inheriting the gene for polydactyly. Question 2, what is cystic fibrosis? It's an inherited condition again, where a person makes a sticky mucus in their lungs and digestive system. You might also have put in that it can affect their reproductive system. And it's caused by inheriting 2 genes for cystic fibrosis. The challenge question is looking at the difference between these 2 conditions and why polydactyly is more common than cystic fibrosis. And our answer is because polydactyly is caused by a dominant allele, so only one of the 2 inherited genes needs to be for polydactyly, whereas cystic fibrosis is caused by recessive alleles, so both the inherited genes need to be for cystic fibrosis. Well done if you got those right. If not, go and have a look again at our previous lesson on polydactyly and cystic fibrosis. So in this lesson, we're going to have a look at 2 of the types of genetic testing, how those tests are carried out, the risks associated with the embryo screening, and any ethical issues that may arise with embryo screening as well. Our first one is chorionic villus sampling, or CVS. Now this can be done between 10 and 12 weeks gestation. The gestation is the amount of pregnancy that has passed. For CVS, there is a number of cells that are taken from the placenta. They're taking these from the placenta, and this can either be done by going through the cervix or through the abdomen. The 2 pictures on the left show how it is done. So going through the cervix, it passes through the vagina, through the cervix, and into the uterus, where they take cells from the placenta. The bottom diagram shows the transabdominal route, where they insert a needle through the abdomen to the placenta. Both of these are done under ultrasound guidance to make sure that they take the cells from the correct place, so taking them from the placenta. The DNA in those cells is then examined to determine whether the developing embryo has an inherited condition. Our next one is amniocentesis. This is done a bit later on in pregnancy, normally between 15 and 16 weeks. They take a small volume of amniotic fluid, that's the fluid that surrounds the baby while they're in the uterus, and that fluid, they separate some cells from it and use the cell's DNA in there to test for genetic conditions. Again, they use ultrasound to guide the needle to make sure the fluid is taken from the correct place. So that's from the amniotic fluid, not from the baby or the placenta. Now, there are some risks associated with embryo screening. First one, which is quite a large one, is miscarriage. It's only a very small risk, but the risk is there. Obviously, people might not want to have embryo screening to find that actually the screening results were negative, but they end up having a miscarriage and lose their pregnancy. We can also get a false positive. So this is where the test says that it is positive, so the embryo has an inherited condition, But actually it does not, and this may result in parents deciding to terminate the pregnancy because of the embryo believing the embryo to have a condition, but actually it does not have one. Can also get false negatives, and this is where the test says the embryo does not have a condition, but in reality it does. So when the child is then born, it does have a condition that the parents believed it not to have. So finally, we're going to have a look at the ethical issues associated with embryo screening. First up is the decisions about what to do depending on a result. Obviously, if the embryo screening comes back positive for an inherited condition, the parents then have a decision to make about what to do about continuing the pregnancy. And this can be a very, very hard decision for parents to make. Next up, there is the cost of screening. So screening for inherited conditions can be very, very expensive. The health service has to decide whether to screen everybody for every inherited condition or just screen people who are more at risk of inherited conditions. And this means that for conditions that are inherited by a dominant allele, this is easier to trace through families, as we can tell if one of the parents has the condition, there is a chance they can pass it on to their children. For recessive conditions such as cystic fibrosis, it is hard to determine whether the parents are carriers or not without testing them as well. So there is the associated cost of doing that and screening everybody. A lot of places now will ask families if there's anybody in their family, extended family, who has any conditions to decide whether they're going to test for conditions. There are then religious and social views. So some religions do not allow terminations of pregnancies regardless of whether the child has an inherited condition or not. And socially as well, some social communities may look less favourably on people who decide to terminate a pregnancy depending on its inherited condition. The last bit, there are concerns about designer babies. So if people are able to look at the DNA of their potential child and determine that they want either a boy or a girl, want to have blonde hair, brown hair, blue eyes, green eyes, they can choose to terminate the pregnancy or continue with the pregnancy. These are all issues that we look at from an ethical point of view. There is no right or wrong answer for any of these. However, people are able to make up their own minds, and we cannot judge them on what they decide to do. You've now had a look at embryo screening. You now have the questions in your booklet to answer. If you need to go back over the content again, you can rewatch the video again or use the information in your booklet to help you. Have a good day.